like in the time that we were recording the album, I was also writing my thesis for gender studies. I graduated some weeks ago, so I'm very happy. And my thesis was very much about speciesism and related topics. So it wasn't a goal that I kind of set out to write a song about animal rights. And actually, it isn't like a classical animal rights song. You won't hear me say meat is murder anywhere. But it is basically inspired by this conversation between two philosophers that I had read about while researching for my thesis. And I have been reading and writing a lot about the kind of mechanist worldview that was, introduced by French philosopher Descartes. And he basically said that every being on this earth is kind of made out of smaller parts, like small mechanist parts, like in clocks. And back then nobody knew about molecules and stuff. So he was pretty much ahead of his time in kind of realizing that everything was built out of smaller parts, etc. But there was kind of a catch to it because, of course, believing that would kind of put humans on a equal level with all other beings and things on the earth. And within the kind of Christian religious worldview of humans being the beings with a God-granted soul, this didn't go down well. So he basically found a solution for this, and he said, we're all made out of these little parts, but humans are the only ones who still have a God-granted soul. So humans are the only ones that can feel pain, that are sentient, that are emotional, that are intelligent. And it was very convenient, actually, his whole philosophy, because this was about the time that people started studying like the internal organs of humans, and they used animals to see what's inside of it, how the organs work. So they basically cut open living animals and saw their intestines and everything. And it was very convenient that Descartes had just taught them about this mechanist worldview, because then they could say, if that dog cries, then it's just a spring that you have touched that is attached to crying. It isn't like he actually feels pain, because humans are the only ones that, etc. So this was very convenient. And then at one moment, Voltaire, another philosopher, he kind of jumped in, and he wrote, you cut open this animal and you find inside of him all the same springs of feeling that you find in yourself. Did nature arrange all the springs of feeling in order for this animal not to feel? That's what he said. He said, tell me, mechanist, did nature arrange all the feelings, all the springs of feeling in this animal in order for him not to feel? So this kind of exchange between these two philosophers, I thought was, well, first of all, I thought it was really poetic in a way, the whole tell me, mechanist, because of course it's a very rhetoric question. But on the other hand, I still feel that in a way it's still relevant, because a lot of people use the same type of argument, centuries later, the same type of argument, like, yeah, I do eat this animal because I don't think they feel pain, So for me, it was basically inspired by just the very puzzles that I had in my mind at the moment of writing the album, which was also my thesis. These two things happened simultaneously, so they were bound to influence each other in one way or another. And it was the fact that I thought that this kind of philosophical exchange between these two enormously smart people, that it was very interesting and poetic. And then there is also the fact that when it comes to my own lifestyle, I've been thinking about these type of things, and that I thought that in a way that exchange related to, well, the kind of choices that I was making. But I don't use lyrics to kind of force my ideas onto other people. But if this is a puzzle that gets me thinking, maybe it gets other people thinking, but I don't want to be too explicit about, here are my thoughts, take them, it's just that this exchange speaks for itself, I guess. No, I've only become a vegetarian very recently. Actually, there was one point when I was a kid, and I was taken to this fishing farm, and I thought that I was getting a pet fish, but then I got a barbecue fish, and at that point I stopped eating fish for a very long time. And sometimes now, when I think of how I became a vegetarian very recently, I think, that 4-year-old me might have been right, or at least might have been. I feel a little bit closer to that again, because when it gets you so sad to see that happening, then maybe it should also make you that sad when you don't see it happening, but you know that it has happened. So, but no, I only became a vegetarian actually when I was, I think through my studies, I was so much into kind of the philosophical aspect and like the ethical questions behind it, and practically it's very easy to think of reasons why you should eat meat, I guess, but at that point I thought every time that I have to write something about it, I come to a certain conclusion. Maybe if I come to that conclusion all the time, I should actually practice that conclusion as well. That's actually as simple as it is. Yeah, I think they do. I do think that things get better, and I also know from a lot of friends of mine who are vegetarian or vegan for a very much longer time that it used to be really frowned upon, and now it's when you tell somebody now like I'm vegetarian, they're like, oh, I'm cutting back on my meat. Also, it's like a more, I think it's a more generally accepted thing to be to kind of incorporate that into your lifestyle. But I also think that a lot of things that have changed, like for example I think they have banned testing the end products of cosmetics on animals, but everything that goes into those products, I think they are still tested on animals. So I also think that there is a lot of also in Holland, for example, some time ago, the circus animals were banned, which I think is a very good thing. But then again, if it would surprise me if there are over 50 circus animals in the Netherlands. And if you look at the bio-industry, this is something that I guess should be higher on the priority list. So I do think that there is a lot of symbolic things which are easy to kind of restrain. So that the animal people are happy, but then the big things still continue to happen. So I would rather see some minor changes in the big industries than the kind of symbolic things that are changing in the minor industries right now. Well, I guess it's one of the most debated lyrics that have come out of Delain so far. And I must admit that it kind of got to me that there was so much criticism to the song in general. But first of all, the song is directed basically to the industries that make money from basically telling people that their bodies aren't good enough. And this is of course not limited to the medical industry. You can also think about, if you think about the food industry, if you think about cosmetic industry, those are also a big part of that. For me, the song is really about the ethical questions behind industries which are very powerful because they make money from the thing that people value the most, their health. And I know that it doesn't make one popular to express any kind of criticism toward an industry like that, because and this is of course something that we shouldn't forget, like a lot of people owe their very lives to medicine. I mean, I don't know what would have happened to me that time that I had this big, lung, what's it called? I've taken antibiotics for many times, but the thing is, when an industry becomes so powerful that you cannot even criticize it anymore, because there's a certain potential invasiveness to an industry that deals with, you know, your bodies and your health, and from personal experience and from things that I've seen happening around me, at the moment of writing the song, I just had big frustrations about that. Yeah, and people express their criticism towards the song, and I know that the song is very cynical, but I was very cynical at the moment. And you know, a song is a certain emotion expressed, or the lyrics are those emotions expressed into words. And I guess the criticism that I could kind of think, well, yeah, okay, you're right there. Somebody said it is a one-sided account. And it is a one-sided account, of course, because this is the thing that I am worried about. And I haven't written about all the things that I didn't worry about. So yeah, I just think that there are certain ethical questions that can be raised when an industry has so much power over the thing that people value the most. And also they get the power to kind of, you know, dictate what is a normal body and what is a normal functioning body. Then this is scary. I think that is scary. Yeah, the thing is, I'm not. Whenever I take a photo of myself and I see, you know, if I had a bad night of sleep and I see, you know, some dark circle, you know, I'll be very easy to just, you know, wash that away because I could have just as well put some makeup on. But when somebody's photoshopping me half a thin, that gets offensive. So I don't know. It's very arbitrary, you know, where I think a line gets crossed, but. I think what bothered me the most about the situation is, you know, when I have my own photos, of course, I decide if I take photos with my cell phone all day. And of course, I am the one who decides what photo am I going to put online, what kind of nice filter will I put over it. So of course, there is already some editing in there, but then I feel I still have the right to decide for myself how I'm going to portray myself to the outside world. And I actually make a big deal out of it that I post some fucking ugly pictures of myself every once in a while, because I think that, you know, every person has several sides, and I like to look pretty in a picture as much as any next person, but I do think that it's good to kind of both give a realistic image of yourself and keep a realistic image of yourself for yourself. What I thought was most disturbing about the whole situation with my Photoshop pictures is that, first of all, I couldn't find out who asked for them to be Photoshopped, because the manager was kind of pointing towards label, and the label was pointing towards the manager, and this is the most crazy thing, because of course you pay your manager to do what you want, and anyway. And I just got the message at that point, because I got really angry. And they said, if you don't allow Photoshop on your body, you'll get a problem with your label. And well, you know, I mean, I started a riot, and I guess at last somebody decided that it wasn't worth it, and I got my legs back and everything. But it just was really strange to me. First of all, that everybody that I spoke to that day, except for the photographer, actually everybody thought that it was completely natural. Everybody thought that I would have wanted it. They thought I would be thankful for it, you know, for my legs to be taken away. Yeah, and there was a great deal of, everybody was just really confused about the fact that I said, listen, there is this circus that dictates people, women in general, to look a certain way in order to be, you know, allowed to be in photos, on magazines, on records, you know, whatever. And I just don't want to be a part of that circus. And that was like Chinese to them. Well, I think that is like I think that most women who go into the entertainment industry have thought about that at one point or another. Like, what am I going to do? Where are my own kind of limits and stuff? And but yeah, that was a time that in general, I mean, we're in a very different situation now. We're working with very different people, but that was also the time where there was a lot of pressure, you know, and for me to take my clothes off and everything. And I have nothing against nudity, but again, you know, on my own terms. Maybe someday if I want to, you know, it can be a way of, you know, creative expression. It can be really vulnerable. I always remember the Alanis Morissette thank you video. There was nothing tacky about that, you know. But this is, yeah, I guess you really have to stand your ground as a woman in this industry, I think. And, you know, so also Army of Dolls, again, it was very much about personal frustrations in a way. Well, first of all, I mean, I just hope that people like the music and relate to it in one way or another. I hope that it brings us as a band also to a level where we can kind of, where we can tour and we can keep continuing making music. And I just hope that people enjoy it. That's always the thing that I want most for the music to do, you know, be it on a record or when they come to our show and, you know, enjoy the songs live. I think that as much as, you know, as much as there is to be, you know, read in the lyrics and stuff, I know how much I enjoy my favorite bands and my favorite records, and you know, the idea that somebody might enjoy our music as much as that just gives me a lot of pleasure in a way too. So yeah, I hope people like it. That's the basic thing.